As the court fight goes on, class also continues in Ohio's more than 600 school districts and for the state's over 110,000 teachers. The state's largest teachers union is not a party in the lawsuit, but the Ohio Education Association has expressed serious concerns about this overhaul. Scott DiMauro leads the OEA. So this has been seen, this whole Department of Education and Workforce issue has been seen by some as an administrative issue. How is this affecting teachers, or is it affecting teachers?
Yeah, I think for the typical educator, this is a bit distant. I don't think there's a whole lot of this that is directly affecting what's happening in the classroom, but it raises a lot of questions. One of the big initiatives that the state is in the middle of implementing is moving to new reading standards. And there's a whole program of new curriculum and professional development that is planned in that. I think the expectation is that regardless of what the name of the department is, that they're still going to be providing support in that regard. But given the uncertainty around the transition, there's certainly a lot of confusion.
There are things that the Ohio Department of Education wants teachers to do, the old Ohio Department of Education, training programs and that sort of thing. Are these things going forward? Does anyone know what's happening with some of these things that the Ohio Department of Education did do before it ostensibly died?
Yeah, I think there was starting to be some transition and delineation of responsibilities under what is going to be the new Department of Education and Workforce and the department that is directly responsible to the State Board of Education. And the lawsuit has some uncertainty in terms of where things stand, but the day-to-day functions of the department are still supposed to be ongoing. What I've been told through the grapevine is that we don't call it the Department of Education. They're just going by the department, and I think there are important day-to-day functions that are happening. Our concern with this whole process, and as we were weighing in with the legislature as the decision was made to go in this direction, is however the Department of Education is organized, there needs to be a place, a meaningful role for stakeholder engagement. We represent 120,000 public school educators across the state who are in the trenches working to provide students with learning opportunities every day, whether it's licensure or professional development or learning standards. It's really important that educators have a voice in the profession. It's really important that parents have a voice. And the State Board of Education provided an avenue for that. It's not clear yet what those avenues for stakeholder input are going to be.
Now, the name change from the Ohio Department of Education to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce was only part of that. But what about that idea of adding workforce to the Department of Education? I mean, isn't the goal to create an educated group of kids that goes out and is ready for college or career?
Yeah, I think that's always been the case. It seems that there's a political decision to try to put more emphasis on workforce development. That isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think as educators we also know that the value of education is not just preparation for a job. It is about creating lifelong learners. It's about creating effective citizens. It's about giving our young people the tools that they need to be successful wherever they're going to go in life, and to create worthwhile, enriching, engaging opportunities for learning while students are still in school. So however the system gets organized, educators need to be supported. We need resources. We need the respect and support to give our students what they need to succeed.
Lieutenant Governor John Husted was on this show last week saying that this transition would make the Department of Education and education in general more accountable and transparent, that the Department of Education itself, the one that died through the budget process, has been leaderless without a permanent superintendent, because the state school board, he says, is dysfunctional and hasn't hired one. Now, also on last week's show, state school board member Michelle Newman said, well, a permanent superintendent hasn't been hired except for Steve Dakin, who was hired and left after a little over a week. There have been 2 interim superintendents who she says have done great work, and the work hasn't stopped at what was the Ohio Department of Education. But all of this speaks to there is bureaucracy in the Ohio Department of Education as it was. Is the status quo the right thing for kids, or does a change need to be made?
Well, I think this issue about, the state board not fulfilling its responsibility and hiring a permanent superintendent needs some context, and that is the reason that they haven't been able to move forward has been all the uncertainty created by the legislature in this reorganization.
Which Michelle Newman did say. Yes.
Right, and so I think it's important to keep that in mind. I don't care what you call it. I don't care whether it's directly a cabinet agency or not. There will always be some element of bureaucracy. And the question is, what is the best way for the citizens of Ohio to provide oversight over our education system? Having an elected school board who have that as their responsibility to go out and connect with leaders in schools and connect with students and parents, I think has provided a real good opportunity for that. It remains to be seen whether someone who is appointed by the governor is going to be doing as effective a job in doing that kind of engagement.
But when you talk about a 19-member state school board, 11 members are elected, 8 members are appointed by the governor. Is that more of a responsible, in terms of responsive to the public, way of doing this than having a governor, a single person who people know and vote for, being the person who's held accountable and responsible?
Well, we do know that regardless of who's governor, the governor has always played a very active role in trying to guide legislation. We also know that it's the legislature that passes laws that push the direction for education. But on the day-to-day things like setting learning standards and monitoring our accountability system and overseeing licensure and professional development, that is a department, and I think the state board has done a pretty good job of fulfilling its responsibility. Could it be more efficient? Certainly. I think it was Governor Voinovich who introduced the idea of adding 8 appointed members to the state school board to the original 11 that created some of the, challenges and confusion that we have. It can always be better. Again, from our standpoint, we just want to make sure that educators are supported and students have their needs met.
You criticized this budget that included this transition as being anti-public education because not only for this part of it, but also because of the expansion of the EdChoice taxpayer-paid school voucher program for private school tuition. Wouldn't putting the governor in charge of public schools like this make him or her potentially more responsive and concerned about what's happening in public education?
Well, we hope that the governor is going to be concerned and responsive regardless. Our concerns about voucher expansion were really about diverting resources from the 90% of Ohio students who attend public schools and essentially subsidizing people who had already been making the decision to send their kids to private schools. Our Constitution calls for a thorough and efficient system of public education, and it doesn't seem that providing a voucher to even millionaires gets us to that constitutional standard.
The Ohio Education Association did endorse Nan Whaley over Mike DeWine for governor last year. And I'm just wondering, are you concerned about this because of who the governor is, or would you be concerned about this kind of transition no matter who the governor might be?
I think we would have concerns no matter who it is. And I will say that Governor DeWine has reached out, has asked for input in terms of, the direction of this new department. We appreciate that. During COVID, Governor DeWine was very interested in getting feedback from educators in the field on the best way forward, and I think he showed a lot of good leadership there. We have disagreements with the governor from time to time, but this is more about coming up with a structure and a system that makes sense for kids in Ohio rather than politics. And I will point out, as I talk to my fellow educators across the state, there is little that frustrates them more is the injection of more and more politics into the classroom. Educators want to be supported and free to do the job that they were trained to do, that they were hired to do. And unfortunately, this whole controversy around the future of the Department of Education, or whatever we're going to call it, I think, has a lot of people feeling, here we go again, one more way that politics are injected into education.
In full disclosure, the Ohio Education Association is an underwriter of this program, but has no involvement in the content or production of it.